The race to 5G is on, and the battle for talent is getting fierce. Welcome to 5G Talent Talk with Carrie Charles, a podcast dedicated to helping you face the future workforce head on. Navigate this challenging talent landscape with innovative strategies to attract, retain, and engage people in this new world of work. Only here on 5G Talent Talk with Carrie Charles, CEO of Broadstaff Talent Solutions.
Welcome to 5G Talent Talk. I'm Carrie Charles, your host, and today I have a wonderful guest with us. It is Subbu Meiyappan. He is the CEO and founder of ECSite. Subbu, thanks for joining me. I'm so excited to talk to you today. Can't wait.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. I'm super excited to be here with you, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm honored that you invited me to this talk, and looking forward to chatting with you.
So we spent some time together, and boy, I just could have talked to you for hours and hours and hours. But one thing that I was just really impressed with is your story, right? Your story of how you got here. So can you share that with us?
Sure, absolutely. I'd love to. So I studied my undergraduate in electronics in India. And then when I was working at an oil refinery as a trainee technician and doing, control valves and things like that. And then I was thinking, what am I doing? And then I applied to come to the US. I got admitted into a master's in electrical engineering at Tennessee Tech in Cookeville. And, nobody in my family had ever set foot outside of the country or let alone outside of the state. And so here I am, right, on a plane to America, and came here to Tennessee, did my master's. Really enjoyed being in a really small university town, and then learned a lot. And then I got a job at a company called VLSI Technology, doing microchips for what they a lot of gaming related applications and things like that. This was in early mid 90s, and I was working at a chip company, and I ended up going to some standards committees and whatnot. And at that time, I met people who were writing those standards, who were also teaching at Arizona State University, and they said, "Hey, can you, you seem to know what you're talking about. Can you come and teach a graduate course in VLSI design?" And I did that for a couple of semesters, and I started liking this teaching. And I said, "Hey, how do I become a full professor here?" And then they said that, "Hey, you need to get a PhD." So then I applied to Stanford, and I got into Stanford to do a PhD program. So I progressively moved west, and came to Stanford here. And I was still in my visa situation, so I was doing all of this part time. I switched to Cisco, still doing a lot of chip design. And while at Stanford, there's some light bulbs went off saying that, hey, I understand how to do chip design, but the things that I don't understand is the signal processing and communications. So I completely, I wouldn't say unlearned everything. Becoming an instrumentation engineer to a VLSI engineer, then I wanted to do steady communications. So I started from literally, communications 101, and picked up all of that. And then out of Stanford, there was a startup that came out building MIMO chips, right? And today, what we use MIMO everywhere. The origins of that, how do you build it into a consumer grade chip, was a big challenge at the time, both from a size, power consumption, and whatnot. And this company had an innovation to do that, and they called me to work with them on building that chip. And it was the best of both worlds for me. It was communications, signal processing, and VLSI chip design. So I jumped ship, and I went there and worked there for a few years. We got acquired by Qualcomm, and I was at Qualcomm for a couple of years. And again, you get these moments saying that, okay, I'm doing well, I'm enjoying this, but you don't like the status quo, right? I want to do something else to sort of up the game and do different things. So friends of the Bay Area is just full of entrepreneurs thinking about wanting to do a lot of things. And a couple of my social friends, we were I don't drink beer, we're just drinking something, and said, hey, let's go figure out to do something. And then I had by then I had gotten another master's out of Stanford, and my friends were also in the tech field, but one of them was a business major, and they said that okay, let's form a company and then let's go solve some problem that is meaningful. And we decided to form this company called NextNav. It used to be called ComLabs, and then we started this company called NextNav. And what NextNav did was, a very important problem is to solve indoor location for different use cases, right? But primarily for public safety, right? When you are in a building and you call 911, it's very difficult to locate you because the cell phones don't give you accurate location, and so we wanted to solve that problem. And long story short, after 12 years of work at NextNav, NextNav's technology today is used in all the phones in the US with all the carriers for all public safety applications today, right? And there's a lot of commercial use cases and whatnot. So, and that was my story coming up to NextNav. And while at NextNav, I've always been, on the technology side, and saw that we were deploying all these beacons, GPS-related beacons on cell towers. And I found out that the whole deployment process was just painful, broken, a lot of error-prone, manual stuff. And I was like thinking, oh my God, what is this? We're living in this 5G, 6G world, but people are still doing stuff manually. And I just couldn't, and it affected us at NextNav significantly because, we would collect all of this data manually and then go to the field and find out that things were just wrong, which meant that we had to do another truck roll, another tower climb, sometimes even cranes, and that took time. And then I wanted to automate that, and we tried a few things at NextNav, which worked really well. And that is when I saw the business opportunity to sort of build and go digitally transform what happens in the field in telecom, and that was the birth of ECSite. Right, so that's sort of where my journey was, starting from India and going through all these gyrations of reinventing myself several times over to figure out what next can challenge me, and here I am. So
what I love it that you told me, you said, what is the next big problem to solve? That's where you kept thinking that over and over and over, and I just think that is the brilliant mind of an entrepreneur, right? So what problems does ECSite solve?
Right. Sure. Yeah. So by the way, on this problem solving, you really don't have to think long and deep to solve problems or to find problems, because the problems are around you every day, right? You walk up to Starbucks and say, why can't I just why can't this be automated, for example, right? I mean, there's so many things that could be automated, and so that's how I think about it. And so with ECSite, what the mission of ECSite is to automate everything that happens in the field, right? I mean, today, if you look at it, factories are pretty well automated. There's a lot of robots. If you look at an Amazon warehouse, everything is automated. But when it goes to field and there's technicians involved having to do the work and things like that, the automation is not as prevalent, right? And I saw this firsthand while building out the NextNav beacons on cell towers, that they are collecting, and a lot of this is mission critical data, right? How does a radio on a cell tower work? How does an antenna work? And they're using that to provision the site and commission the site, but the data is still collected manually. There's a lot of fudging, delays, all kinds of things, right? So in order to automate what I would call mission critical data collection, ECSite built a software platform to be able to automate the data collection in the field, right? And we try to leave no stone unturned. And the most difficult parts are this mission critical data collection with test equipment, right? And I know you deal a lot with workforce, Carrie. The talent pool is becoming scarce. The knowledge base is becoming the knowledge required to operate these things are getting more and more complex. So how do you abstract that with an app in the field that you can automate and still do have all the test equipment? We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but still have software to help automation in the field and in factories. And that's sort of where we are after. And if you look at it, the opportunity is pretty large from a wireless space, wireline space, where all the fiber deployments are happening, data centers. So there's a lot of opportunity. So ECSite builds automation software with a field first approach that helps collect this data and push it into the cloud and generate all kinds of reports.
So I want to really dig into the product a little bit later, but you started in wireless. What other verticals do you serve now?
So we still primarily serve wireless, but because we're doing test automation with test equipment, one of our customers was doing wireless deployments, also had a manufacturing line. So they pulled us into manufacturing and said, hey, can you automate this manufacturing line for us where there's a lot of test automation? So today and then that ballooned into other opportunities within the manufacturing line. So today we serve the wireless field services business and also a manufacturing line as well, right? And we have and as you said, we'll talk about a little bit more. There's a lot more opportunities in data centers and whatnot that we've not even touched, but the platform can serve all of those needs.
So you mentioned automation quite a bit, actually. And can everything be automated? Everything? Yeah. How in the world is this possible?
That's right. So, Carrie, it's a philosophical question, and I look at it today, and sometimes it's just goosebumps to think that they can take off a rocket and land it exactly where they want today, right? And that's automation, and I couldn't imagine that happened in our lifetime. So automation of just about anything is possible. It is a mindset, and the tools are available. We're talking AI to do a lot of things. So in my opinion, there's nothing that cannot be automated. And like I said, it's a mindset, right? You have to think about it as, okay, why should I repeat this? Right? You do it once, and then you shouldn't have to repeat. And with that, there's definitely tools and capabilities and talent pool available today to make any automation work.
How is automation going to affect the workforce, the way you see it?
Yeah,
I know there's a lot of fear out there and uncertainty and AI and all this conversation. But how do you see this?
Yeah, so there's always this fear, Carrie, right? And without automation, we wouldn't be enjoying the lifestyle that we have today, right? I'll say a very, very simple, relatable example is the ATM machines, right? And the ATM machines, originally there was a teller in the bank who was just giving you money, right? And now, nobody wants to go into the bank to draw money. They just want to go to the ATM and draw the money and come out, right? And so similar to that, right, is just, certain mundane things have to be automated. And, I always think about it as automate the mundane, elevate the human, right? And we can do much better things, right? And, now you only go to the bank when you really need to see a human to do certain things and resolve issues and things like that. So you really want them to be the communication force, people that deal with customers who have challenges and stuff like that. But other than that, all the mundane stuff should be automated. And I think, and what has any of this automation, whether we are, flying cars or self-driving cars or warehouses, when you start doing things at scale through automation, it definitely opens up a lot of job opportunities, I think, and opens people's minds up to do certain things, right? And I will say I am a good example to say if I'm inspired by the rockets being, landing at the same place, then I think that, hey, whatever I'm doing should be child's play, and we should be able to automate this. And this is creating more jobs and efficiencies and a lot of things that we're doing, Carrie, today is the jobs that people don't want to do, right? It's like they don't want to sit and fill out a spreadsheet with 10,000 rows and columns to get paid, right? And I know we are saying that you collect the data, everything goes to the cloud, the reports get generated automatically and get paid immediately. There's no need for human reviews. And that's, like I said, it's automating the mundane and making people more efficient, right? So that's how I look at it. And people have generally embraced automation at scale, right? So.
And it would only make sense now, like you said, that there's more jobs, right? But there's reskilling, there's upskilling, look at me, tomorrow I'm going to be 56 years old. and proud of it. but like someone my age, right? Thinking of, okay, I need to learn this. I need to up level my skills, and in order to to take advantage of these new jobs and these new opportunities. And so we need to have an open mind, right? Not be afraid of it, but have an open mind. Go back to school. Yes. I mean, get enrolled in classes. I know I'm learning a ton about technology right now and AI and really up leveling it. So, I mean, would you say that that's what we need to do, as humans, right? Elevating the humans, we need to elevate ourselves.
That's right. And continuous learning, right? You just have to keep reading, and just tell yourself, I'll read one article a day. That's all you need to do, right? And one article, spend 7 minutes, 8 minutes reading one article and absorb the material. Then it automatically you learn more. And like I said, it's and as you correctly said, it's a mindset, right? I want to be able to do better things with my time, right? And that's what it is. And
yes.
Great. Yeah, that's great.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
So let's go back to ECSite.
Yeah.
Can you let's get into it. Describe, the details. How does it work? How does it benefit a company, field workers? And also, I know this is a lot of questions at once, but how is it going to revolutionize the industry?
Right. Yeah, good question, Carrie. So I'll get into the product a little bit. It'll be I'm technologically inclined, so I will get into the weeds a little bit to explain some of this as well. And I'll just stick to the wireless industry, and since this is a 5G tech talk, right? So today, when you build a cell tower or a DAS site, there is a design document, right? And there's a design document, there is a statement of work, and all of this, gets shared in PDF documents or some electronic form. And the statement of work is a Word document, and people try to understand, interpret. And the background of all of this is that there is a test plan, there's a procedure, right? What they call MOPS, right? Method of procedures, right? So all of this is in different documents. And, how many people really read through in enough detail to read these documents? And that has to get pushed all the way to the field worker for them to do a good job. Or if it goes to a field worker, then otherwise you have to have a foreman, you have to have a supervisor, you have an engineer who's reviewing all of this as well, right? So we wanted to, so we start from there, right? We take all of these input documents and digitize it, right? And I'll say digitally digest it, right? And put everything into the cloud. In a way, it becomes an executable document, right? If I say, here is a cable, here is an antenna in the alpha sector, and I know this, antenna is a JMA antenna, for example. I know what the manufacturer is, what ports are there, and what frequencies they're compliant with. And the technician should know to some extent, but at the same time, they don't need to know all the gory details. What is the specific characteristic of a port of an antenna? They don't need to know that. Right. So we try to abstract. So from the materials, from the design documents, from the statement of work, we pull all that information, we digitally digest it, ingest it into the cloud, and create workflows that are customized for that specific site. Right. And so then what happens is, it's not a generic document anymore, generic procedure anymore. All the intelligence is in the software to be able to create these workflows. So when a technician goes to the job site, uses a mobile phone to pull all this information from the cloud, right? They just say log in into ECSite, press, they log in as themselves. They'll have the sites assigned to them. They pick the site. It tells them exactly what the statement of work is, or from a workflow perspective for the field, right? And then they click through the buttons on the app to do all the tasks, and it doesn't feel like you're clicking through the buttons for the sake of filling out certain forms and things like that. It just becomes part of your workflow, because I do need to test this antenna port. So then what happens with the software on the mobile phone is that we talk to test equipment, right? So the app then sets the parameters for the test equipment and says, you're now testing, port F1 on this antenna in alpha sector. These are the frequencies that it needs to be compliant with. So it'll set those frequencies. And otherwise, people are punching numbers on the Enritsu equipment, for example, or KLS equipment, and they could you're in a sunlight, on a crane, or on a tower, so a lot of mistakes could be made. and the app sort of abstracts all of this out, and it tells them what to do. And they will connect the cable. The app will run the test and collect the trace in all the scientific information from the test equipment. And then it'll also say, hey, from a closeout perspective, I need a front and back picture and show the weatherproofing. And so they just take those pictures for proof of work. And then everything goes back to the cloud. And once you sync back to the cloud, then you will be able to populate dashboards and trackers and whatnot. So they're able to see exactly what's going on in the field, right, without having to go visit the job site. And we support all kinds of 360 cameras and whatnot to be able to visualize as much as they can remotely. And then we can generate what is called this closeout packages that automatically gets generated. And it's surprising, Carrie, that every market, every carrier has different requirements for closeout packages. I always joke saying that there's as many closeout package formats as RF engineers in the room. And you have to sit there and formulate all of these things. And then once we create a template, it's automatically generated. But so this comes in a full cycle, right? And we take that data, put it back into wherever the design document came from to say there is an as-built here as well, right? So we try to, and because today as-built documentation is very sparse, and they don't, people they've gotten paid, and so they move on to the next project with the closeout packages, and then they don't necessarily have time to do the as-builts and whatnot. So we're trying to make a full life cycle of the data collection to make sure it is all there, right? And as a part of this, Carrie, I'm just talking about how we are automating what happens today in the field. But my thought process with this is all of this process is all outdated in general, right? We're just complying for the sake of complying. We're using 2022 technology with AI and everything to generate 1990s spreadsheets, and those get distributed through SharePoint folders and whatnot. And I just hate it, right? I just don't like to see all of this happening in the industry, because this creates data silos, and people don't look at these spreadsheets. Only when there's a problem, there's look at it. By then, the field crews have moved on. And we really want all of this to be API driven. All the systems should talk to each other. You should be able to query the data anytime you want. And all of this should be self-alerting. So that's how I see how all of this should evolve to. But, we have to start from the grassroots to make sure the data is collected correctly, which is what ECSite is trying to do today.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Subbu, you're a visionary. I mean, you really are. I'm just going to call you one right now. But I want to know what's next. What's next for you? What do you see that is possible? And again, it could be this industry, it could be something else. I mean, you mentioned flying cars. I mean, I want to get into your head a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, just looking at this industry itself, right? I would really like to break all these data silos, right? And all these systems should be able to talk to each other. And we work with a lot of our partners we don't try to boil the ocean ourselves, but the ocean could be boiled, if you ask me, right? And how do you boil it? You have to boil it all together, and we're working with partners and integrators to be able to make all of this work. So breaking the data silos means that collecting all of those data correctly. So I always encourage people to say, hey, don't use my app, right? I'm not trying to sell you this, but just think about collecting this data in an organized, methodical way, right? And there's enough opportunities to be had. But overall, the long-term vision, I think, Carrie, is that, this going back to sites over and over again just to fix problems. And I mean, if there's an upgrade, I understand, right? But if there's just, they didn't do a good job, or things were missed and all of that, so those go back should be avoided. And, if I really think about it, Carrie, I would rather build a tower climbing robot that would be used for periodic maintenance, right? I mean, if those robots can do all kinds of fancy things at factories, all we have to do is climb and check the torque on all the ports, for example. Is there weather seal on all the ports, right? And so those are simple things that these robots should be able to do. And I think at least, and towers are not going to go away anywhere, right, from all the things that we want to do indoors and whatnot. And so, we should be building tower climbing robots, right? And as one of the things that I talk about. And on a related topic for you is again elevating the human. I think we should abstract as much information as possible in a way that people have developed specific skills to do certain things, and they're able to do those, and also allows them to go deep into certain things with a broad-based skill, right? So I don't have to say, hey, today I'm coding in Python, so I have to take a course in Python. Tomorrow I have to code in JavaScript. I have to take a course in JavaScript. It should not be like that, right? I should be able to switch from one to the other with the levels of abstraction. I'm just giving an example where, how, we really have to become broad-based, and how automation can help us get there, right? And on a related note, I would also say the way we're doing, contracts and things like that, all has to evolve to smart contracts with blockchains, right? And today, you're in this industry, Carrie, right? I know how difficult it is to get paid on time, even if you fulfill the contract and whatnot, right? And whereas, if you did your job and if you met the metrics, then why not get paid immediately, right? And it can be net 45, I don't care, but I want to get paid, right?
Right.
And just because of some whim of some people who are accepting this, payments gets delayed for whatever reason. And I really think that, I know crypto is not the best word to talk about in general, but, blockchain is here to stay. Ledgers and contracts will also evolve, and people will transact through smart contracts is where I see.
Wow. So that when you said robots that climb towers, I just pictured now the tower tech can stand on the ground, which is safer for them, he or she, yeah. And then they can operate this robot, right? And have that's cool. No, I love it. I absolutely love it.
And it's also sustainable, right, Carrie? Like, one of the operators mentioned that just last year alone, they drove about 11 times to the moon and back, just in the Pacific Northwest for tower maintenance.
What?
That's how much driving that they've done, right? Imagine the amount of gas and workforce and whatnot that they've spent on the amount of climbing that they had to do, amount of driving. But all it is was a small inspection, right? So these, even at a small scale, I think this will help the planet to be a lot more sustainable and get to net zero as well. We really have to think about for our future, for our children. How is net zero? How do we evolve all of this into a net zero, right? And that's another purpose of the automation as well.
So I'd like your thoughts on AI, on generative AI. Yeah. How do you think that generative AI will help the telecom industry specifically?
And very interesting question. From having been being in the Bay Area right now, it's just generative AI is like super hot. Everybody is they're talking about generative AI. And I also didn't talk too much about AI in my vision, because I think AI is going to be a part of all the work that we do under the hood, right? It may not be obvious to you what AI is doing, but a lot of it is under the hood, right? And where I see is that today, generative AI has a lot of different use cases. One is, in context, I want help. Then today we have to pick up the phone and ask somebody. And even for me, how to operate this test equipment, I want to be able to have all the manuals for the test equipment and say, I'm in this step, what is my next step, right? And we should be able to answer all of those kinds of things. So this, next word problem is an interesting problem from that use case. The other thing is that I was talking to you about data silos, right? These data silos are there because certain software tools do certain things and they push it into a database, right? Now, for somebody to take all of this data and create a massive master database and then query is all painful, right? So really, generative AI is going to help break these data silos. I can bring 3 or 4 databases and tell generative AI, hey, you have access to these 4 databases, right? Now tell me how is this design related to failures here? Is there any correlation that you see, right? So that'll be a good way to bring all of them together and say that, I can answer questions about my data. And I also say that, the dashboards are, people use dashboards today for a lot of their task tracking and stuff like that. The days of the dashboards are numbered, that it will, because you see, dashboards are static in some sense. If Carrie likes a certain feel of a dashboard, Subbu may not like the same field, may have different questions. But I want to ask questions to my data, right? And I want it with all my databases. So generative AI will have a role there. So like I said, just to sort of in summary, generative AI will help with all this data analysis in a big way, for tech help and whatnot, from understanding manuals and procedures and steps. But I also think apps will also go away eventually, and you'll just have a phone which says, "Hey, I want to do this," and it'll do it through generative AI is how I see that it'll evolve, right? So going from a big screen with thousands of icons, I think we'll end up with one screen where we can read a lot more with one icon which says, "Do this," right? It becomes a true personal digital assistant over time.
Right? Subbu, you are leading the charge here.
Yeah, I am trying.
I am excited to see what's next and follow your life, right, and learn from you. So
likewise, you do fantastic work, both on the work front and nonprofit and whatnot. I'm inspired whenever I talk to you and see you.
Thank you so much. Well, where can we learn more about ECSite?
Yeah, so our website is www.ecsiteapp.com. I started blogging recently, Carrie, on technical topics, and writing.
Good.
I think this whole C-band deployment has been a big challenge in the DAS industry, and I saw some of these problems, and again repeated problems over and over again. So I said, okay, let me write something up about it, and now I have committed to write an article at least once every month to put something out there. And it's all about, again, like I said, a lot of it is about the data that we have, and we use that data to sort of help the industry in a way that it makes sense. So, yeah. So our website is a great place.
I see a podcast in your future. I think I think it's perfect for you. You need to be a podcaster.
I will. I've always been a guest, and I'd like to learn from you and see how we can do this. Let's do it.
Look, we dressed the same today. We both are in the exact same color of blue. So I'm wearing your logo colors and you're wearing mine. This is a match made in heaven. Subbu, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is enlightening. I always learn so much from you, and maybe we can do this again next year and see where you are and where the industry is.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate having me on the show here.
Of course. Take care.
Keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another informative episode of 5G Talent Talk, brought to you by RCR Wireless News, Telecom Careers, and Broadstaff Talent Solutions. As we advance into the future, we promise to bring you the resources you need to navigate this ever-changing landscape of 5G to help you attract, retain, and engage people in this new world of work. To access the show notes or leave a review, visit broadstaffglobal.com. Until next time.